Welcome to Let's Talk Motivation. I'm Serena Miranda, your host, and today we have a special guest, Jen Silva Boucher, who is a speaker coach for the Middle Academy. And I'm so excited to welcome her to my podcast and see where we're at and what she's up to. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I'm so excited. And a little background, we met through Mic Drop, right?
Yes, Mic Drop.
You did the Mic Drop, I guess it was the boot camp, right? For just the 5 days. And someone in our page, on our Facebook page, had put, if you have a podcast, let's share it. So I shared my podcast and Jen clicked the link and scheduled. And I'm super excited to get to know more about you and what you're doing. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a leadership communications coach and speaker, newly founded For the Middle Academy, who is really to serve middle managers and people leaders to communicate a little bit more confidently and also inspire their teams to create high performance for their businesses.
That's incredible.
So, and, I have about 20 years experience in corporate, in leading teams, and also in communications and marketing. So that's kind of my backstory. And then I'm also a wife and a mom and a dog mom to my rambunctious pug, Chloe.
Oh. Yeah, I have a French bulldog, and yeah, she's rambunctious, moody, and very needy.
Rules the house. More than the kids some days.
More than the kids. A funny story. My youngest is 19. And when I got the French bulldog, she was a Christmas gift from my husband. And I got her a high chair. So when she was in the car, she could be looking out the window because she's kind of little. So I had strapped it into the front seat of my truck, my Tahoe, and my son came out from school, and this is when he was still in high school, and he opened the front seat and he was like, absolutely not. This dog does not get the front seat until I'm out of the house. And he moved her and stuck her in the back seat. So he was not having it.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting of the three. So let's start with a question. Right. What was the moment that sparked your business journey?
I can't say it was one particular moment, right? I think it was a kind of a cumulative effect, right? So working in corporate, working in leadership, I started to see really when, there's different management styles. We all have different management styles and strengths, but I was really seeing that there was a gap when, you sometimes go to, an EQ presentation, or you have a half-day webinar or a seminar. You learn all these great theories, right? But then we come back to the office. How do we put those theories into practice? And I think that's where a lot of it is missed, right? So you imagine you come back to you feel inspired, you feel great. You come back to the office, you have a million emails to catch up on, you still have that project due, maybe somebody called out and you have to figure out coverage or pick up where they left off. So there's a gap missing there. And my program is designed to kind of fill that gap, specific toward communications and leadership, really to kind of build that framework, coach one-to-one, create accountability, to be a better leader and performer for your team.
Nice. So what's one thing that people don't see when you're creating this business, right, to help this niche market? What is something that people don't see on the back end when you're building this?
So what they don't see, I think, there's a lot, right? It's kind of funny because building a business, I think I got some practice of all the behind the scenes being marketing and communications. There's so many things that go into that people don't see, but if it doesn't get done, you don't realize it, right? So there's a lot of back end things. I mean, and especially, starting your own business, you now have to wear the hats of like your IT person and your you have to be tech support. You have to get the software. You have to market it. You also have to build the program itself, right? And in what the education courses are going to be. So I think, sometimes people only see that front facing and that once you start promoting, not knowing, this is probably something that's been going on for me, especially probably 6 to 8 months until finally being at the juncture where it's like, hey, okay.
And then you can start out. I just recently started outsourcing some of the work that I don't need to do, because at the beginning there's a funny I guess it's a reel or a TikTok where they're saying meet the team, and then the song, like they're in a chair and it turns around and it's the same person for every department. It's like, I've been wanting to do that one. Here's tech support, here's customer service, and because you do wear all those hats at the beginning of building your business. Definitely.
Absolutely. And actually I kind of ended up doing something similar, not outsourcing everything, obviously, because it's a new business, but going, okay, what do I really need to get done? I actually read a really good book. I think it was called, actually it was an audiobook, 10X is easier than going 2X. So, but they talked about how, especially in business leadership, sometimes it's not that we're procrastinating doing things, it's that we might need support of somebody else that can do it better. So then we can focus on other things. So I have been doing that a little bit, having somebody help me with my website and things like that. Cause it's like, sure, I can do all these things, but then, okay, it's distracting me from maybe this that is really going to be the driver. Right. So yeah, I think getting support is a beautiful thing.
That is, I think that's where you, as a business owner, we start to move forward, right? When we get to that point where it's like, okay, now I need somebody to help me with my social media marketing or creating the content. So you're not doing it all yourself. I work with some business owners as just helping them with their strategy. And that is one of the biggest questions. It's like, where do I go for someone that, like, I know one of my podcast guests had just written a book. She's an artist, she's now an author, and she runs a business. And she's wearing all three of those hats. And she goes, how do I launch my book? And I was like, I think you're at the point where you need to, you need to outsource that plan, right? And work with a brand strategist or work with somebody that can help you figure out that plan and how to lineate, work it all out so it launches successfully.
Right. And it kind of ladders up to, leadership and management style, right? And kind of something that, I'm passionate about. It's really going like, okay, well, what is the strengths? What can I do best? And then what can I disseminate out? In business, it's like, okay, I'm going to pay somebody. And where if you're a leader, it's like, okay, what is this person's strengths where I can give them something and it can also help them grow professionally, right? And succeed.
Sure.
So it kind of has, similar trajectories, I think, in those two arenas for sure.
Definitely. So have you ever doubted your path? And if you did, how did you push through it?
My path, I don't even know. Am I still on a path? I don't know. I always joke, like, people are like, oh, what's, your path? And it's not a ladder. Most people are like, oh, you should be going from like trending from here to here. I definitely found my path has been more like chutes and ladders. There's, ladders in every direction. I might have missed a rung or two.
That's funny.
Hit my face, pick myself back up. But, yeah, I think I kind of started very differently. I actually have a psychology degree, which is probably why I'm also interested in, like, I read a lot of like psychology, occupational psychology reports and things like that, and trying to always make myself, a better manager and people leader in person, really. So I do have a psych degree is what I graduated with. And, I worked in the mental health space for a little while, but then kind of got a temp job, and then started working in corporate, really, because it was a little bit more stable hours and things like that.
Right.
I had been working in a group home at the time, so it was definitely different shifts. So you never knew what you were going to get. So from mental health to, operations, and then, I was with one company for a long time that I was able to grow, and definitely more, not up, but like across, right? I did operations. I did some community affairs and public affairs and philanthropy. Then I was in the marketing space, worked in branding, all that kinds of stuff. So I definitely soak in as much knowledge as I can.
Right.
And yeah, so, and I'm still, doing communications and marketing now. But I felt like, there's just this calling. I don't know if it's the stage of life I'm in, how can I make the workplace a better place than when I found it? So
Definitely.
a healthier place, people, we spend a lot of time at work. And it would be nice to, feel good about the work we do more times than not.
Exactly. Before we dive back in, let me share something that's been helping so many of my listeners lately. If you're a small business owner, you probably worn every hat possible: manager, marketer, HR person, and maybe your own legal advisor. I'm Serena Miranda, and I help entrepreneurs like you protect what you've built, whether it's a commercial auto, general liability, or access to a trusted law firm. I've got you covered. Let's make sure your business is protected so you can focus on growing it. Visit networthlife.com or message me on any social media at serenamiranda.networthly. So let's do a little unfiltered business wisdom. Okay. What's one mistake you made that taught you your most valuable lesson?
Well, my business is new, so I'm still, I'm sure I'm going to still make some mistakes, but I think it was taking almost too much time to launch. I was really getting in the mode of like perfection. Like, I know this isn't as good as it should be, so I'm waiting, and then I'm going to do this. No, then let me refine it. It definitely made a mistake. So I'm definitely at the point where I was finding like I had to put my foot down to myself.
Right.
Get motivated. Tell myself it's not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start getting the basics down, what you need out there, and move it. Like, that's the only way we're going to move the needle. You got to put yourself out there, right? Practice over perfection.
Yeah. And I was just on a guest on another podcast yesterday, and we talked about that. We like, what delineates the difference between someone that just is going to be an entrepreneur or start their own business. And we talked about that fear, right? You can't be afraid of not being perfect, and you can't be afraid of it being messy, because sometimes it gets messy and you just got to learn from it. Even like myself with this podcast, I'm learning as I go. My mission was to meet like-minded women and business owners that have something to say and can share their knowledge with somebody else, because we're all learning every day. I think when I turned 50, I decided that I was going to go on this journey to build my insurance agency. We'd had it open since like 2019, but it was between my husband and I, and we weren't doing anything with it. And at the time I was helping him with his real estate business, and I told him, okay, I'm firing myself. I'm no longer working there. I'm going to find somebody to replace me and all the things that I do. And I want to go all in and make this my own. And of course he was like, okay, whatever you want to do. And I support you. Tell me how I can help you. And I said, look, this is all mine. I'm not going to ask for any advice from you, because this is going to be my baby. And it worked, but it was messy. And I started going, oh my gosh, I don't even have really a business plan, like my own business plan. Mm-hmm. He had a vision when we started it together. And I was just kind of like, okay, whatever you want to do. So I started from the ground up, and that was in this fall of 23. And it has been a journey, because building an agency from the ground up is not easy, because everyone wants you to attach yourself to what's called a network or a group. And I don't want that. I don't want somebody to own my business. I want to do it all on my own and be independent. That's why it's called an independent agency. But it takes longer to grow, and it takes longer to see those successes. But I've enjoyed the journey, and sometimes I have sleepless nights, and sometimes I'm like, I need revenue. I need to figure out my goals. But I'm really excited about the journey. And I think if you really want to see something develop, or whether you're in leadership, you want to see something grow, whether it's the department or the success of the business, you have to have no fear, right?
Or you have to just say, okay, I'm scared, but let's just go.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think that fear ever 100% goes away, maybe that pit in your stomach, but it's like, I think it's really pushing past it, having no fear. That's great. But I don't know. For me, there's always still that fear. They say the healthy, right. Like your parents always put that healthy dose of fear in you, right? So I think maybe that's what's lingering. It's hard to break through, but yeah, I think it's important, and that's definitely what helps. And really, having that support system that, I think a lot of the fear is the fear of failure, and especially in a public, vantage point.
Yes.
But if you have a good support system, it's like, that's okay. We'll pick you up, or I'll pick myself up, or you can pick me up, dust me off. Yeah. Let's keep on moving. Right.
Yeah. And that's what I noticed also. In this journey, I've surrounded myself with a support system, and really making sure that I have those women or communities that I put myself in, where one, they keep you accountable. They, a business coach, that has helped me tremendously, because it's a person. I think a business coach really helps you because they're the outside, right? There's no opinion. Like I had told you earlier, my husband gives me his constructive criticism, and I like to take notes, but then, and I tell him, I'm going to write that down in my notebook. Thank you for that information. And sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't, but the coach really helps. And being around groups, like I'm a member of the National Association of Women Business Owners, which is a national group. And I've really enjoyed our chapters in San Antonio. And we're the second largest chapter next to Chicago. I think Chicago's the first one, but we're growing. And I see each organization that I'm a part of has its own benefits, right? And it helps me in a different way. Are you part of any women's groups or any type of professional groups?
Not formally, but I do go to networking through one of our local chambers. They started doing a Powerful Connections. So we meet every few months, which is great. And I've been meeting a great group of women professionals and entrepreneurs. So that's been great. And I absolutely agree. Having that support is really great, and having that support of your friends and your family. But it is nice to have that unbiased support, right?
Yes.
Giving you, some thoughts or advice, or, just, or complaining about some similar things because, your friends and family are in it like they are. I think is really powerful, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, I really like the chambers too. They have a good format, and I've noticed they're really dialing down to what we're seeing. I think after COVID, it shifted. I think our networking shifted because we're coming back in really getting into person to person and meeting people in public. I know I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. We didn't really close a lot, but everything kind of dwindled. There wasn't as much group organizations. And I'm seeing that uptick right now, and I'm loving it. I'm all in for it. So
yeah, I think people are definitely ready to, build that connection, which is so important, right? And wherever in our lives, personally, in our workplace, professionally, connection is so important, and really is the basis of how we feel as a person, how we're healthy, just overall wellness.
Yes. And like, if we're talking about like a forward movement, right? So aligning with your brand, what advice would you give to someone who feels stuck but knows that they're meant for more?
So this is an interesting question, because I feel like I've recently been on this journey, as you could imagine, being somewhat of a newer business owner. So my advice is read, learn. A couple years ago, I'm like, I felt like there has to be more. Again, I always joke, I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's my midlife crisis, right? I want to do more. I want to work with purpose, help more people. Yeah. So I really just started, reading, trying to figure out my ikigai. Do you know that Japanese, term?
No.
You don't know? So ikigai, it's a Japanese way of life, where it's kind of like the three circles, right? And where they intersect. It's do what you are good at. One circle is do what you can get paid for. And the third circle is do what the world needs. And where they intersect, that's your ikigai.
That's awesome. I love that.
It's a really cool, and so kind of just diving into that, reading some books, really figuring out what can I do, what do I want to do, what's my purpose, what are my strengths that I can give to people. I also recommend, there's a course, the free course from Yale about happiness by Dr. Laurie Santos. So that was really interesting, learning, there's some psychological backings to that too, learning what people think makes them happy versus what actually makes them happy. So that's interesting. I think I just was kind of just trying to soak in as much information as possible to figure out what my journey is, right? So, because sometimes we don't know. I'm still, I'm still on it. I don't know where that path is going to lead, but I'm now excited that I'm on a new path, right? And I'm on a new journey.
Give me your top 3 books right now that you've read or you're reading.
Well, I just finished Mel Robbins' Let Them. It was great.
Yes, actually, I'm on my second book club.
Yeah, I'm actually reading her other one that was before that. I can't quite remember the title at the top of my head.
Someone just told me about it too. I can't think of it either.
I'm like in the middle of it. I'm actually listening. So I find that audiobooks, and then it's like, you can really, because she reads them, she doesn't have someone else narrate. She actually narrates them. So it's interesting hearing someone that wrote the book narrate it, because you really get the feel for that personality. And I feel like I'm just soaking up so much more knowledge. Simon Sinek. Why? Yes, that's a huge one. That I think I read like a year and a half ago, and that's still one of my favorites.
He's great. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Living and leading with purpose every day. So yeah, is that 3? Yeah, those are probably the last 3.
I have a friend who, Cassandra, her name is Cassandra Vitaka Mitchell, and she wrote the book, The Happiness Formula. And she also did a lot of research on globally, like what happiness and how incredibly low happiness got during 2020, and how we're trying to pull back to that moment. Right. I had never thought of it, like in that sense. And it's also a great book. I recommend it. She does,
check it out.
It's called The Happiness Formula, and how we as businesses and leaders in our community, this is really something to be thoughtful of and intentional of. So it's really good.
Right. And that's where I think it is. It's like, people are like, oh, happiness. But that really leads to your overall wellness, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think at the end of the day, we want to feel better in our lives personally, and obviously professionally. So that's kind of where I realized, like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to help people feel better at work. And how can I do that with my skill set and my strengths, right?
Right.
So really like leaning into the leadership and the communications part of leadership and how you can build habits and frameworks, and really get the accountability to make these theories into practice, right? So that's kind of
awesome.
where my big journey. I'm still walking it.
Nice. We all are. I think,
Right?
I don't think we'll ever stop walking.
Yeah. No.
Our journey continues for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's see. What's one habit, one practice, a ritual that you swear by to reset or refocus? Because I know you're in the beginning stages of this business, right? So what are you doing to help you? Okay, I got to dial down and get into this.
So honestly, typically what I do is I just step away for a short period of time. Either I'll take a walk. I notice that really helps me being outside, although the weather in New England hasn't been great here. But so I find sometimes I just need to separate myself for a little while. And then things will come to me, or in the shower or on a walk, or I also meditate, not as, I try to meditate at least a few times a week. I'd love to do it every day. It's just definitely difficult with the stage of life and running kids and working full time and running a business. So that also helps me kind of just reset and just like start fresh, for sure.
Yes. And I'm learning that as well, because I don't, I'm like, just, that's been my nature. I'm like, we got to get to this goal. But I have met, so far in the last 2-3 months, I've met 2 ladies that work with mindfulness and meditation. And I am not a student of meditation, because that was a learned behavior from my mom. And it's what I'm finding is it is so important to take a moment and just breathe or quiet your mind and reset, even if it's for 5-10 minutes. I think the lady that I had met, also, actually, I have her book right here. I want to share it because this one, it's called Searching for Sanity. And I just recently started reading this, and it's how I overcame crisis with mindfulness and how you can too. And because I am not a meditator, and she's taught me, I've seen her in person a couple times, and I'm like, I have a really hard time doing this because maybe I have ADHD, I don't know, but I just see squirrels everywhere. So I'm like, oh, I got to go here. Oh no, let's go to do this. So,
we live in a time where there's just a lot coming at us all at once. So I hear you, because a lot of times when I meditate, it's like, okay, then all these other thoughts come in my head, and it's like, no, then I got to push them, remind myself, push them out. You're supposed to be thinking, like, clearing your mind. So it is definitely a practice, and it's like, it doesn't come easy. Especially now, I just think, with our phones and everything, technology is great, but now it's like we have so many things now in our minds and coming at us than, say, like people 100 years ago, for sure. So I think really getting that, the grind is great if you're like, you're churning it out and you have a fresh mind, but like when you're churning and you're not healthy, you're not making yourself well, it's like the output also isn't great. So I'm always like, you know what? I got to just take a step back right now.
Step away. I did a podcast on motivation and what it is and how to stay inspired. And one of the things that I did talk about was how we have to ask ourselves, is this the moment that I need to push, or is this the moment I need to pause? And we have to know that difference. And I have to verbalize it out loud. Serena, you need to pause. And then I have to D&D all my devices. I always give my kids a heads up, because it never fails. When I need quiet, they're calling. And so I'm like, give me 20 minutes. I will get back with you. I'm taking a moment. And now they know, mom's don't bother mom. She'll text us when she's done. But yeah, that is, it's either push or pause, and we have to know when to pause.
Right. And, setting up those just healthy, like, limits and guidelines for us. And like you say, for others too, like, hey, like, don't call me right now. Like, I'll be back to you. Same thing kind of in leadership. You shouldn't be on all the time or expecting your team to be all the time. We need that break. You need them to come back refreshed. They don't need to be checking emails at midnight, unless you have like a super hot project. I get it. But like, if that's the norm, there's a problem. There's just definitely like, and it's going to affect, overall health of everyone and the bottom line at the end of the day.
Definitely. I totally agree. So tell me, what does the future hold for you? What in your business? I know it's fairly new, but let's look at our goals, your goals for the next year, maybe 5 years. What do you envision?
I envision a community. I really want to build a community. That was another thing. So not only did I see, there's the gap of just different management styles so they can support their teams, but people leadership, management, whatever you want to call it, there's obviously a lot of different terms, but it sometimes is the most lonely job you have, right? So they don't give you okay, here's your manager handbook. Like the first time you're ever promoted, it's not because you're a good people leader, it's because you're a good individual contributor. So now we have other people to be able to, that we're responsible for, but nobody goes, okay, here you go. Here's some training so you can actually, help these people grow, help your team grow, help the business's bottom line. Yep. So for me, the other part is like really having the resources for people leaders and middle managers to be like, hey, I need help. Has anybody gone through this? Like, what has found it helpful? So my ultimate goal, like I would love coaching, teaching, but I want to build a community and for us all to be able to lean on each other and really create that healthier corporate wellness environment.
That's wonderful. And that is so true. And when I worked in education for a long time, and then I went into more of the administration of education where we did training for our teachers in the state. And my manager was I wish everyone had that experience for a leader. And I keep telling her, I want to interview you because she's just so great. And one of the things that she helped me when I became self-employed and started this journey was get us our strengths, the Clifton strengths. And we started with,
I did that with my team awesome? Too. Oh, I love those. They are so important.
They are so important. So since I worked with my husband in the real estate brokerage, we did it together because we're a team. And then the kids were graduating high school and getting their real estate license and their insurance licensing and working for the business. So we went ahead and did their strengths, and they did their session with her, and we did it as a family. And it has really just opened my eyes to the whole dynamics of leadership and what it looks like, and how we all, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not a family business, you're just a family. I think it is so important for budding young adults, young teenagers to know what their strengths are and kind of visualize that.
Because I think especially, I don't know about you, but I know for me, I feel like when we were in school, you're always taught to work on the things you're not good at, right?
Yes.
But once you have your strengths, even recently, I'm like, why am I not, like, I'm just going to admit, like, I can do this not well. I'll never do it great. But you know what? I'm going to lean into the things that I do great. And then you'll see exponential growth. Like, that's not taught, at that, like, traditional education level. So when I came upon those, I think they're great. I think it also helps with sometimes just within teams. So when people understand each other's strengths, I just think it gives it a different awareness, right? Because
Definitely.
Sometimes it's always like, well, why would they do it like this? You have that all the time. It can create conflict. But then it's like, hey, if you guys all sit down and realize, oh, like this is this person's strength. Okay, like, and now I see it. Like, I think just we try to work a little bit better with one another, right?
100%.
Awareness, like, oh, we all don't all think the same, right? But as long as we're going toward the same goal, that's what counts, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly. And even like one of my strengths, my number one strength is positivity. And this is where I thought was just an eye opener for me, was when I read about the basement of your strength, which is when you're in the example of mine, positivity, I could set a goal, not meet it, and still be positive about it. I'm like, no, Serena, you're in the basement. It's not okay that you didn't meet your goal. Let's regroup. So I think it's funny, but now I'm more mindful of it because I didn't know what that meant before I took my strengths. I didn't know what the basement of your strength was and what that looked like. And now I'm more mindful about it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Like, so one of mine, it's not my number one. My number one is connectivity, which I wasn't really surprised by that. Yeah. But I think my fifth one, I was like, what does this mean? But I'm like, I can kind of get it, was intellection. I'm just thinking. So a lot of thinking. But part of me is like, okay, well, that's kind of what that you're going back to that, progress over perfection, right? I'm always thinking. So sometimes it's a strength to be always thinking, but then I have to know like, okay, but then it kind of, there's an impact, right? Sometimes I'm overthinking and I want things to be too perfect. I need to just push through that. So I think it's great for your self-awareness. Absolutely too. So it's really interesting going through that process. I definitely recommend it for everyone.
I totally agree. Are you a Clifton certified coach?
I'm actually in the middle of starting that process. So,
I think you would be wonderful. I think that's a great addition to your business and leadership because not a lot of people know about it. I'm so surprised how many, I could talk to 10 people and maybe 3 know of the Clifton strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And it's very, I think it's definitely a great tool for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where you go in the next, 2 to 5 years. And thank you so much for being here with me and joining us on Let's Talk Motivation. I feel more motivated and I am so excited that our listeners will too as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.